Preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess. His way's the only, nothing. Solar panels on the roof. Solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Buys his goods from local folks. Hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows. Hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. His goods from local folks. Hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows. Hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Wears the crown. Life liberty with a musty beard. Preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Life liberty with a musky beard. Preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess. His way's the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof. Solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Buys his goods from local folks. Hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows. Hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Buys his goods from local folks. Hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows. Hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God is kingdom, where's the crown? Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God is kingdom, where's the crown? Where's the crown? Life, liberty with a musty beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Life, liberty with a musky beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life, liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess. His ways the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof. Solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Buys his goods from local folk. Hates the government's side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows. Hates the talk of those he pokes.
Welcome to the Life Liberty Show. Thank you guys for joining. Today, our topic is going to be, are civilians who are overly concerned with first world issues more unhealthy than veterans and those who have been exposed to third world issues? You know, I think that this is a great topic because I believe personally, and have said it many, many times, that the issues that we have in our society right now are absolutely 100% first world issues, because people that have been to these other countries and have experienced a life without all of the amenities that we have right here in America or any first world nation, right? England, Australia, any European nation, they just don't understand having nothing, right? I would argue to say that there are people in the first world nation that have experienced having nothing, right? I would say that there is a small percentage of people that have done without, right? If you go back I don't know, a few decades, what was it, the 60s or the 70s was kind of the last time that somebody had an outhouse, and there may have been, you know, a couple stragglers here or there. Everybody pretty well had indoor plumbing. And then you get into the issues of growing up fairly poor, you know, not knowing when your next meal is going to be, right? So I would say that there's a small percentage of people in America, we can go with homeless, right? That just don't understand what it is to struggle. And, you know, I've brought Dr. Kevin Cameron on, my wife that is in the process of getting her doctorate, and then just some homeless Marine is going to join us as well. We kind of found him on the corner. But he's an okay guy, so I thought, hell, I'll bring him on. So here we go, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you guys for being here. What do you guys think about this? I've thought about it, and I've talked about it multiple times, but I think the way that this is worded is probably the best way that we could really bring it to the masses. So what What is your view on this, my lovely wife, Miss Life Liberty? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that there is some truth to the question that we're asking. When we live in a first world country, we have a lot of amenities, and especially our like younger generation has never went without the amenities. And if they do have to go without them, they're dying, right? They can't make it an hour without their cell phone. They've got to have their tablet. But to say that they're worse off than veterans, I don't know. I think that's where I want to open it up and hear from the veterans, because most of these veterans did come from where we had it all. And they went into a society where we didn't have it all. And they went without internet. They went without running water and flushing toilets. So yeah, they've seen it, but I think that there's a point in everyone's life where there's some sort of struggle. You might not do without everything, but you're going to do without something. So I don't know. I'm kind of open. I haven't made up my mind one way or the other on what I absolutely feel is the right answer to the question. But I'd like to open it up in here. I know that the two gentlemen you have on tonight, including yourself, are veterans, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
Well, there's only two of us that are combat veterans. Um, I honestly I don't remember. Dustin, are you a combat veteran? I don't even remember.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I was with Third LAR. We pushed all the way up Route One to from Stepan City to Creek. Yeah, I've been in the dirt,
Wait,
if
wait,
you
wait.
want.
All
Both of
right,
you guys are
You want to say
Marines?
that?
we're both
Both of you guys are
Yeah,
Marines. Yeah,
Marines?
I was with
Oh,
Initial Push in
oh,
'03.
oh, okay.
yeah.
That's
So
cute.
was I. Not
That's
with.
cute.
Hey,
Did
look,
not
look,
just
look.
say
I love
that.
the Marines. I do. But how hard could it really be? I mean, it's so easy. Even the Department of the Navy can do it,
Oh, da-dum, dum, tsh.
right?
How many times you gonna use that
ASVAB
joke?
waiver.
Guys, stick around to ASVAB waiver. So, guys, stick around. Check out the next episode because we know Kevin is going to use that joke again.
Yes, why not?
Kevin, how was it going in behind the Marines who took care of business and not having to do a whole lot?
It's
It's great. We can read all their names across their asses.
yeah, it's really
That's
nice
great.
being a janitor, isn't it? So, but in this topic, really, right? So, do we think that civilians who are overly concerned with first world issues are more unhealthy than veterans or those who have been exposed to third world issues?
I do. I
So
really do. Because you have to remember that mental health disorders are defined in the United States by the American Psychological Association, which are individuals in the top percentages of their culture and their social economic status, and their their doctorates as their interpretation of what is healthy or unhealthy. They're the ones who generally write the research. They're the ones who are determining what is and is not a mental health diagnosis. And they, a lot of them really live a sheltered life. And yeah, there's difference between healthy and unhealthy, but you know, when we go, we understand, we get to see what it's like to be hungry, right? We understand what it's like to live hard.
Some of us don't
We
get to feel what it's like to be hungry.
right. Uh, there's a there's a lot of people that we experience. I can't even explain what it's like to see ruins, not ancient ruins, but like ruins of a city, right? Kids who are starving, and it is it's not even fathomable the first time you see it, right? And then you come back and to the United States, and you see people more concerned with, what the Kardashians are wearing next, or what movie stars are having an opinion over here, over there, and we get ridiculed because we don't give a shit. And who cares about having the new cell phone? We don't give a shit. I
Yeah,
mean, can't tell you how many problems issues that causes.
I know this is weird to bring up, right? We're talking about being in a third world country, but you have to remember, still in America. Second, my second tour, we had this. We believe a human right here with air conditioning, um, and we had electricity. It was kind of weird, but we got to watch the movie Saw before it came out in theaters in America. It was pirated. The quality was completely awful, and we absolutely loved the movie. And then I came home and I watched it again, and I was like, "Damn, I missed that." Because the quality of the video that we watched was so bad that we didn't get to see all of it. And it's a small amenity just like that, right? We talk about uh, starvation, we talk about electricity, air condition, um, decent transportation, a CVS around the corner. But whenever you think of just the quality of video, right, that that we that we receive there versus here, it's the small things that if you slowly break it down, so many things that the quality of our production right now is still way better than any of the stuff.
Okay, so Kevin had made a statement. Some of our own soldiers know what hunger is. So, out of the three of you, can you guys tell me if there was hunger in our soldiers, how many days of hunger were there?
We went
Four
Not
4 days.
at a time.
We went 3.
So what would
four.
happen is we moved so fast. The Marine Corps is designed to fight a battle 100 days, 100 miles inland. That's what we're designed to do. We are not an occupying force. That's the Army. We are shock troops. We come in, we scream, we loud, we blow up things, we make big booms, and then we turn it over to the Army. The Army occupies, and we rotate and circulate out. In Iraq, it was different. Iraq's landlocked country. We really couldn't do that here. So now we had to take on the role of being supplied from ships while on the move through another country, through Kuwait and then into Iraq. This made a yo-yo effect. We were moving faster than what our commanders thought we would actually move. And so the food wasn't catching up to us. We drove by some Army convoys where they're like opening up boxes of MREs and they're eating, they're throwing out their main meals just to get to a pound cake. And at one point, we went rolling by them and we stopped real slow. And I had one of our scouts jump out and grab some of the food off the ground and just start throwing it in the back of our trucks. The Army
But
saw us and kind of freaked out a little, and they were tossing us MREs by the time we left.
I'm talking about even simpler things like that than that. It We have people that are so worried about perceived discrimination and persecution, or having that words hurt their feelings, but they don't know what a hard day's work is.
Hard day's work. Think
They
about fucking burning a barrel of shit,
I mean,
right?
look at all these college kids that are griping about how hard life is, but their education's being paid by mom and dad. They're not even paying their own phone bills. I mean, they don't understand what it is to live independently. And even the ones that do are great. You're still going to college. You're you're the top percentage of whatever group you want to identify as. That's They don't even know how privileged they actually are.
Yeah,
Well, and where I was kind of going with that was, I think to some extent, definitely our soldiers had empathy or sympathy, and they saw this firsthand, and they felt um, guilt and sadness and remorse for it. But I don't know that even our soldiers understand completely, because I don't know that they felt it 100%. We were in the act of doing something. We were in war, right? But
I don't know
yes, you
about that.
lost. I can say that you lost some of your amenities, the electricity, the internet, things like that. As far as hunger, knowing what a child goes through day in and day out, or an adult that is not going to get food, doesn't know where it's coming from. At least our soldiers did have the security of knowing the food was coming. We didn't know when you were going to get it, but I'm sitting on a panel with 3 veterans, and I'm hearing the most days we went as 4 days with no food. So, do we really understand the complexity of the first world problem that we're not going to get this?
I
See,
think
I was even
Can I
saying
say
even
something real quick?
more than that. I was going to say, you look at the, even though we were taken care of, which we really were in the military. Look at all the people and the civilians that we were around in these other countries. And that's really the stuff that hits hard for us, for a lot of us, is what we
It
saw.
mentally does, but physically feeling and understanding, I don't know that you really understand that until you go through it yourself.
Let me say something real quick.
go ahead.
I think Matt will understand me. Doc, you may not. Miss Liberty, you may not understand this. I'm remorseful now, right now, in my ages, in my 40s, after having a son, having a child. I'm very remorseful now. When I was 22 years old, I cared very little about those people. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm going to be honest. If we're going to be honest, we'll be honest. I was trained to not care about those people. I looked at those people as just another target, just another movement, another way to get next. We're looking for somebody. Let's find out who it is. Looking back on some of the things like that is when I stop and I think to myself, my God, what have I done? You know, who am I? Who am I now? And that's when you start looking for the identity and who you are now. And I, I didn't notice their hunger and their starving. I didn't until I got out and was out for a long time and decompressed from everything. That's the
You know,
best I can describe it.
In mental health, I've seen both ends, right? And I'm kind of with you. When I was over there, at first it didn't hit me. It really didn't. And to be perfectly honest, it didn't hit me. I mean, I know people were throwing out the pork MREs to the Muslims just for entertainment value. But later on, you're right, it did. There are some people who did hit hard on deployment. I really think it boils down to how closely they worked with the social populace when they worked down there, what they did, who they are. There's a lot of variables that go into it. But I was a lot like you, where I just didn't give a shit at the time. But when I came back, right, and I started realizing that there's just some shit I just no longer gave a crap about. Right. I don't need the latest cell phone now. I don't. I just give me something that works. That's all I need. Right. And I need a computer. Okay. Does this do the job I need it to? I don't need all the bells and whistles anymore. I don't care about the flashy fancy car anymore. I just need something that works. And then you start hearing people around you that not necessarily were even in the military, but your family members, everyone else bitching about, how hard life is because they couldn't get their Starbies, right? Or the someone hurt their feelings, or they're pissed off because one person or another got elected president or whatever, and now they need to take time off work and school to cope that someone who won an election that it's the end of their world, and you're just like, really, guys, come on.
Yeah, and I'm right
But
there with you guys, right? When I was there, I've told some of our stories how they would fill MRE bags with all the trash rolling through town, and you watch them scramble to try and get the food that's in it. Laugh because um like this is some of the atrocious things when we were in Iraq. But I can remember when we were at Edson College, after we pulled back from Baghdad. Our next door neighbor was like, it was a farm right next to it, a fence, nothing real crazy. There was a kid that would come over to our armory. We would throw trash back and forth, right? And just to play with the kid. And noticed that he only had a thumb. And like we would be police calling, and he pointing the at the trash that we missed, or telling us where it's at. And we found out later that each one of his digits were actually chopped off by the Iraqi government. And that's because his mom had stole something and then blamed it on him. And so he was
But
running around with just his thumb. And
but
this is,
that
but
but
what
that's
if
it, right? That's kind of it, though, right? The people in the U.S. and a lot of these people with first world issues are so concerned with bullshit, but they don't understand what it's actually to live and have to survive day to day. Not pay your bills,
but
but
what
I mean, some countries, there are countries right now that if a woman gives someone an erection, right, the woman is stoned. The
But from what I'm hearing of you three, is even until you guys came back and got a little age on you or maturity, whatever we want to call it, this didn't phase you guys either until that time.
No, and I think that
I think she's right.
yeah, and I think that might have a lot to our life was for the military or the conditioning of the training, right? Because I remember going through basic after 9/11. Dustin was, but it was, and I think you were too, right, Kevin? Just
yeah,
9/11.
that's before 9. I came
So
in in 99.
right, so I like even through boot camp, that's like the whole oorah motherfucking Marine. Were going over, they were showing videos of the Twin Towers falling. They showed pictures of Pentagon that had been blown open and the Marine Corps flag hanging out. We're all going, ah, even the Marine Corps
But
stood. So we were
But what I'm
conditioned
hearing,
to be um like just checked out of reality, and you were very mission oriented.
see, I don't think so. And back to what Melissa was saying, we started immediately joking once we joined the military
Listen,
about sorry, the apologize, Miss Life Liberty, but but uh, but we started joking immediately about once we're in the military about freaking. Sorry, I know Heather. My
yeah. No, you're
bad.
good.
no, you're fine. You're
But
fine.
military quality, right? And yeah, we're in the military. We have set standards, but we are starting to experience more of those I won't say third world, but non first world environments.
Sure.
We start. I mean, we can get we can lose our career if we're late to work, right? We can lose our career if we're not feeling well and tell our boss to go kick rocks, right? We can go to jail for it, a federal crime for it, right? Other people can quit, civilians can quit, and we start to experience that. I don't think it really hits us as much until we get a little maturity on us. But I think it's more than just visiting a third world country. It's escaping those first world conditions. And I mean, the new DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, came out in the last year or two, and it came out as TR, right? But there's a new diagnosis in there, right? It's called target of perceived adverse discrimination, right? Or persecution. It's related to feeling like you're persecuted by society due to your membership in a political group, or that thing, right? And this just came out after all this social justice crap, and it it shows how that now if you think that you're being socially persecuted because of one belief or another, not even that it's a fact, but that you just, I feel like the world's mean to me, right? You now have a mental health disorder. You now could have a disability, and now you're a victim, and the world's going to end for you.
Well, that's the victim
But
mentality that we have received, and something like that is only amplifying it, right? Because I remember an adage growing up, or a little homonym, or fucking little fucking saying, or whatever you want to call it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Right?
What? Where did that go in our society and in the first world nations? And
I think we hit too many people with a dictionary too many times, and now they think the words hurt.
Well,
well,
these
I
kids
mean,
get social status from having victimhood. Where your victimhood lies is where your social status is in high school, in junior high, whether your sexuality or how you feel or where you came from, your background. You have these stones of infinity, these woke infinity stones. How many stones you fit into is where your social hierarchy is in school today. Where in our day it was, whether you got a swirly in the toilet or not.
hey,
And
hey,
well,
hey,
but
and
hey,
that
hey,
today
hey,
that
hey,
it's
hey!
does come,
Don't you fucking pick on
but
me?
that
That's hurting my feelings.
But that does come down, guys, to it's I know it's a different topic and I'm not trying to get off topic, but that comes down to our government had to find a way to divide us. And what's the easiest way to divide us? By somebody else hurting our feelings. Because if they hurt our feelings, we're going to cry about it. And,
You know,
and kind of,
I think that's more social media than the government itself.
Well, it got the votes. Whoever can make you feel the worst and say, did they hurt your feelings? That's the person that's going to get voted for from that district, from
And
that state, from that area.
this is why I think it's more of a first world problem, because while we're in the military, right, we tell each other suck it up and keep on going, right? We'll wipe some dust on it, dirt, whatever, and keep on moving, right? No one cares about your feelings. Keep on moving. The moment we get out, even the veteran community has turned being broken or uh, disabled or whatever you want to call it into a badge of honor, and we glorify it every day. I can't turn on any social media platform like TikTok or anything without finding, here's another 22 a day wristband to come buy, or buy this T-shirt to support this agenda and pay for my
Not
next
every
Camaro.
fifth
And
video on
right,
TikTok is something for a
spend money
veteran.
here, yeah.
And it's
Boy, my algorithm's way off.
and
but
it's
where I kind of went with this is I think what drove it to look, I don't want to even say look like, but what has drove it to seem like that the veterans are better off mentally and physically than the civilians in this is that the veterans begin to see what they went over there to fight to give freedom for. Because let's be honest, that's we had agendas that were not what we were told they were. Um, they then begin to
try not to
see
go down
here
that
on
route.
our, I'm trying not to. Then they begin to see here on our own turf the ignorosity of the people, and yes, I made that word up on my own. Thank you. Of the people,
Both Kevin and I go.
yeah, of the people
New
here in
therapy word.
America, and now they're turning, going, you have no clue. You don't understand what this is like. When in reality, it took you guys many of years to get it. And if you guys were right there on the front lines, seeing this firsthand, and it took veterans this long to understand what they've seen, how do we expect civilians who haven't seen it to catch up to you that fast?
Well,
So I think
I don't
that,
think they're
and
see-
go ahead.
I don't think they're seeing what we saw. We saw real poverty. We saw real pain and suffering. They're not. They're only playing a part. These college kids that are screaming and yelling and saying, free Palestine. Well, a lot of these kids are actually Jewish descent of their own, but they're out there screaming free Palestine. They don't understand what's going on. They're just after the latest and greatest thing to give them social clout.
But do you think, as a veteran, when you went over there to fight this war, you understood what was really going on? Because you were under the assumptions that our towers fell and we're going at it
So
balls to the walls.
I
You
don't
said
I don't
as a
think
veteran. I was not a veteran then.
yeah,
I was
yes.
active duty, and my mindset was totally different. I
Yeah,
was
so
over there. I was a weapon.
I don't think it's that at all. I think that, I mean, it boils down to looking at it, the differences in the culture, the first world culture versus others. I mean, there's a quote by a guy named Hoff that said, hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And we are living in a society right now where the U.S. life is actually pretty good, right? For most people, not all, of course, but and
No,
we
no,
have
no,
the
no, no, no,
luxury and the
no. Life is pretty
privilege of being.
good in America. Let's not make this. I mean, yeah. So as I
No,
said in the beginning,
I'm just being fair. I mean, not everyone's living in a mansion by any means, but
but a
But they're
mansion
living in
isn't.
something.
Yeah, but a mansion isn't the ideology of
you
good.
don't, you know what I mean. But
Okay.
I was gonna say that we have the privilege of you know being more concerned about people's feelings than am I gonna make it going to school today through the minefield or an ambush or the rival mafia group down the street.
Right.
We don't have to worry about, you know, am I gonna have hot water to wash my dishes for the most part. And a lot of this stuff is just that. People don't realize how privileged they are in the first world environment, and those who have experienced it, either witnessed, seen, or lived the other side of the coin, I think are healthier and able to deal with more crap than
Okay. I,
than
I would
everybody else.
I would agree with you, and we can get into it. I mean, you kind of alluded to it earlier, talking about the veteran community, kind of wearing it as a badge of honor and glorifying it. When it in the veteran so were they may be healthier and able to cope, but being getting the skills or retrieving the skills have kind of disappeared because the victim mentality is over, even in the veteran community.
So
Well,
I think
yeah,
that's a double-edged
if it
sword,
wasn't,
though.
well, I don't know because you've got two sides of this. There's the veterans that actually three sides, if you want to get down to it. You got the veterans who feel that way and want to bust their ass to do the work to change the way they think and they feel so that they can be productive in society. Then you got the veterans that want to wallow in it and they want that victim mentality.
And that's a good
And
majority of them.
And
then
that's
you've
where I
got
was
the
going to go.
veterans that and then you got the veterans that want to use this as a, I'm entitled to this benefit because I did X, Y, and Z.
And,
And,
and
we are privileged in our country that even for our veterans, we have. Do I think they're great? No, by no means. Do I think our veterans aren't treated the way they should be? Absolutely. But they do have the opportunity to go and be diagnosed and get compensation for how we failed them or the injuries they sustained during duty.
but I think that's it,
And here's
though,
where I
right?
come in.
Yeah.
I will say something that no other veterans usually say, and I've said this to them before. They've heard me say this. As veterans, we are given a lot. We are taken
Yes.
care of to the hilt. A lot of veterans come out here and say we deserve this, we deserve that, and there are homeless veterans out there. If you're a homeless veteran,
It's a choice.
you want to be homeless, or you've burnt every bridge that you've ever gone across.
Which is a choice as well,
There's
Eddie.
no reason, which is a choice as well. By the way, you can say that as well. But as a veteran, I'm very well taken care of, and I'm very, very pleased and happy with where the VA is today, as opposed to where it might have been in 1968.
Did
Not that I was
exist.
around, but
I
sort of.
do
I
think that
saw Born on 4th of July.
I do think that there are veterans in your shoes that feel the same way. But I do feel like, again, we have a divide where we have veterans that feel like it's horrible care because their check isn't big enough. And then there's veterans that legitimately aren't even all the way down to mental health, aren't getting what they should be getting in order to take care of themselves because some of them aren't getting it at all. And
So I
it's
Well,
think
the
not
key
from,
word there is feel.
yeah, and
What is
I think
feel?
you guys are both
Feelings.
right. I think you guys are both right. See, it's the healthy veterans are the ones who are able to adapt, right? And have that resiliency for whatever reason. It's the ones who are unhealthy, the ones that suck up that victim mentality. And yeah, there are always problems. I'm with you. I think that the VA actually is a great resource for us. I think vets get a lot. Do I think there's problems? Always, right? Do I think there's a problem with the suicide rate? Yes. Do I think that the VA is doing the best it can? Yes, but it does not. It is lacking cultural competence, and that's a different argument, right? And we've all talked about that before for the most part. But but overall, a lot of these vets are entitled. They think that they are deserving of things, but they don't even know if they actually are or not. They heard it from some third party barracks lawyer that, oh, you should be getting this, this, and this. You should automatically try to screw the system to get 100% disability when they aren't entitled to it.
Right.
And it's garbage. But I think you guys both hit on the head. Is yeah, there's lots of problems, but the difference is some feel and are entitled versus the people who are able to adapt and are still lacking benefits.
Well, that's kind of where I was at in the beginning, right? Is the ability to adapt is that's not something that's just inherently given to you. and whenever you're not forced to adapt, right? I believe I've everybody knows that I have an OTA. Everybody knows that I was kicked out. Said it 100. Said it on a couple episodes of my podcast. I think I was forced to adapt. Did it take me a while? Yes. But I was forced because I didn't receive the VA benefit. I didn't receive the ability to like I chose not to tell people I had an OTH, and like I felt dishonor, right? So when I didn't get the ability to whine that the VA isn't giving me what I deserve because I felt like I didn't deserve it. So now I'm in a position where I'm forced to adapt and forced to do the work for myself instead of being able to wallow in the fact that I'm a veteran and the VA isn't giving me what I deserve. So by giving these fucking services to veterans, it fucking kind of pushes the same ideology as it does for women if they're fucking barefoot and pregnant without a dad, they get the benefit from the government. So now it's like, are we creating our own fucking demise by having all of these fucking benefits for veterans, not forcing them to adapt?
So
Well, and I don't want to sound cold hearted when I say what I'm about to say,
Did ask
but
it.
people want to sit back. People want to sit back and they want to gripe about civilians being entitled to having internet, to having a phone, to having all these amenities. Why should a veteran be entitled? Because you signed that dotted line willfully. You weren't
I got something
held,
to say on that.
oh, so do I.
you signed that dotted line. So what makes you
Different topic.
any more that makes you any more entitled to anything when you want to gripe about civilians being entitled? We all fall under the same piece of paper or the
Well,
same pieces of paper,
well,
the
honey,
Constitution.
that was kind of my point. Is it's the government promised us veterans something, and now the government is promising the people the social programs. So is it the government and it I think it goes
You
back
know,
like two fucking generations because if I look at our grandparents, they didn't ask for government assistance. They got out and busted their ass. And then you get into our parents' generation, they were starting to get food stamps and they were starting to get, the social programs, amenities. And then when they start
the,
living on them and then they're teaching their kids that they can do the same thing, instead of teaching their kids to get out and bust their fucking ass, work for something,
well,
it kind of like it's the
just
government offering the hand up
yeah, just like
forever.
the government promises to take care of the veterans, but the government also promises to take care of the children in foster care.
I'm
And can we account for them?
no,
So
That's a
I'm
little
agreeing.
different.
So I do agree it's a little different. And I know we're actually going to do a video specifically on this
A
and later
podcast
on.
on it, yeah.
Yeah, the podcast on this that because joining the military, we don't actually know what we're signing up for. We don't get a chance to read the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so it's not really a contract that's considered. At least that's going to be the topic that we're going to go down. But the kind of stretching back to what we're talking about, I think that's really the difference, though, right? We now have a worldly experience that a lot of these people in the first world don't have, and then because veterans and people with trauma, like legitimate trauma, not that they got their feelings hurt,
Right.
actually have. When we are jumpy, we're looking for safety. We're looking at how dangerous the world really is. We are annoying to the people in the first world. Why are you like this? You need to change. You need to fix yourself. This isn't normal. Why? Because I don't give
I've,
a shit about what's
I've
on my
asked you
phone.
that question about adaptation a while back,
Yeah.
and you kind of live in this world. Why? Why? I mean, yeah. So I'm not going to go kick in fucking doors and kill people because
No, I said you have to adapt to your world, not the world. I don't have to care about every other person in the world. I choose to care about the people I've lived with. Like, I don't have to give a shit about what other women think about me, but my partner, I'm going to care what she thinks, and I'm going to try to adapt my world to please her because that's my choice.
Right.
I don't have to make the rest of the world happy.
I mean, I get what you're
I like
saying, but
that.
the question that was posed a while back was more in the workforce, right? Because we have to adapt society so that we can be productive members of society. And the
A choice.
society that we come back to is so fucked that there's the adaptation, the adaptation is so fucking vast. It's like trying to
And,
jump
I,
over a grain.
and this is exactly that first world problem where this original question, that's where I got the idea for it when I brought it to you. Because it's we don't have to adapt to the first world. We don't have to adapt to every environment we go into. We have to adapt to the environments we choose to engage in. If you are choosing to engage in this work, this place of business, right? That doesn't mean I have to also deal with the idiots at the ice cream shop, the idiots at the grocery store, the idiots down the street. I just have to make nice with the people I'm working with, or at least my team that I'm working with. That's not the rest of the world,
But
right?
isn't that, but don't you feel that that's true for even a civilian? That you don't have to adapt to the world. What you do have to adapt to is the situation that you're in and the people you're around.
I disagree. I think right now the first world issue states that my environment needs to adapt to me, and that's I
How
think
does
the
what
disconnect
if your
in the first
environment it
world
has to
group.
adapt to you? How successful are you going to become in life if you can't adapt to the environment around you? To some extent,
So
not to every,
so
but to some
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
extent.
the way I mean I've had that asked to me before too, and I say there's a difference between navigating your environment and adapting to your environment. There are when it's cold outside, I'll go put on a jacket. That doesn't mean I'm going to acclimate. However, if I'm in that region for long enough, I am going to acclimate. I remember going to Iraq and thinking that it was hotter than hell and dying. But by the time I left, it's like, oh guys, it's only 90 degrees. We're fine, right? Let's go for a
You were
10-mile hike.
acclimated.
We acclimated. We adapted to our environment. But not
90
every
was a
environment we
cold day,
go,
by the way.
right? We don't have to adapt to every environment. That doesn't mean we don't have to navigate the environments we go into.
I
And,
mean,
and that's where I think the
But
difference
I
is.
think I think that's true for every person. Let's just say in America, it's not just our veterans.
well,
Because just because me saying the things I've said on here it hurts Kevin's feelings, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't say what I'm thinking and feeling because it's going to hurt Kevin's feelings.
You cannot go into your school right now and say the same thing.
watch me.
So you would adapt to that environment of the school and be what that school needs you to be in that environment, correct?
Well,
Uh,
that's
You,
kind of
I
the
mean,
point.
this word
Mm,
defining of terms, right? One is either changing who you are, is what I consider
You don't have
adapting,
to
right?
change who you are. You need to adapt to
but
those around you. We adapt every time we go to work. We adapt when we talk to someone that we don't know. We don't show them our true
mhm.
selves. Well, hi, my name's Dustin. I just go
But
crazy.
that's the
You know, excuse
problem
me
in
for
our
using my name, but
country. That's the problem in our country. Just like Kevin made the statement, you can't go say that in your school right now. Well, that's why. Because we sit back and we let them tell us what we can and can't say, and we adhere to it, and we start to change ourselves and modify ourselves for that situation. And we as a country, be a veteran, be a civilian, be whatever, have allowed it to come to this point.
shouldn't we have some kind of social norm to put on when we meet each other? We're not just immediately jump into our most extreme selves.
I
Sure.
think we used to. I think we used to when we used to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
right? When we used to be able to when I think before social media and the keyboard warriors, right?
Call
If
them
you
thumb
ran your
thumbs
mouth,
because it's on their
right?
phone.
You, wow. But if you had something bad to say about something, we were taught to go confront them about it, right? And then say it to their face. And if you were still willing to do that, you're either going to be able to agree to disagree or someone's going to take lumps. There's no accountability for anything anymore. And we should be able to have the mutual respect of people as human beings. That doesn't mean we have to like them, doesn't mean we have to even agree with them. We can agree to disagree and part ways and shake hands. that is an older generation ideology of the United States. It is not the first world problems we're facing now. It is more about that political lens of we have to be careful of who we offend.
So that goes
And
back to what Miss Liberty
Matt,
said earlier. It is the government that seems to be wanting to divide us.
Matt, can you do me a favor? I don't have access to it right now. Can you please look up for me and tell me where social media started and what group started social media?
Um, that was probably Yahoo Messenger.
I'm looking it up right now. I know one of the old VPs started the internet.
Yeah, out of at CERN.
Ooh, out of CERN.
Yeah, CERN actually started.
And, according to the Google AI overview, it says 6 Degrees in 1997 is often credited with the first social networking site,
Yeah,
founded by Andrew
Here I thought it was Al
Wyman.
Gore.
That's who it was. I'm
And,
thinking of Al Gore created the internet or some shit like that.
it wasn't Al Gore.
and
It
and
was CERN.
and
Same thing.
what is their government affiliation?
Democrat.
This says AOL. Well, a bulletin board system. 885 was AOL.
I'm more asking.
I know
I'm
you are.
more asking. Was there a government connection to the start of social media? Because I believe I'm correct on this
Well,
answer.
well, so that would be the. I see where you're going with it, but if we go to CERN while he's looking that up, if we go to CERN, so CERN was actually creating a network so that all of the computers can communicate. Because CERN is huge, so they were
Yeah, who
creating a.
funds them?
CERN is
So, I,
what was that?
okay, well, for 6 Degrees, it says it was founded by Kevin Bacon. Uh, mind you, I'm looking at right, I'm laughing too. It said it was founded or
What?
affiliated. It's not affiliated with any government agency. It's a 6 Degrees is a separate charitable organization founded by actor Kevin Bacon.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
So
heard it. 6 degrees. Everyone is 6 degrees separation from Kevin Bacon. You can find
if
6 different
I
people to bring you
am
back to Kevin Bacon.
if I'm correct on this, I do believe that Hollywood was the kickstart to social media. The people from Hollywood took to social media to create social media, which most of their careers had some sort of affiliation of being funded or backed by someone in government.
Well, you
So
can.
to say that government didn't start all of this to create what we've got today, I think is crazy not to think about.
I think
I
that's little
Well, I can
for
tell
me.
you this.
For me, that's just too many pieces removed.
I think that would be a stretch as well, even though we can all agree that the DoD has a media budget. Right? They've been involved in movies. The DoD was involved in Transformers, involved in a whole bunch of fucking movies.
Sands of Iwo Jima.
Right. So I think the connection you're making could be plausible, but it's where can we find it? Because if we go back to what I was saying with CERN, www, World Wide Web was actually created by CERN, and nobody owns the World Wide Web, but were creating a network where all of them can communicate, and then they were like, hey, why don't we just take this worldwide? And
I'm
it
not
just
saying
fucking spawned.
that it's owned, not saying it's owned by one person,
I know
but it
you're
took
not.
funding from different sources, in which those sources have connection or either were in our government or direct connection to our government.
Okay, but in that scenario, by receiving funding by the government, the thing that I'm working on, um, it and if we get a grant from the government, then that would mean that I have government funding. By that, then you can say that anything that I say would be, what's the word I'm looking for? influenced by the government.
I
And
mean,
I
I can
don't
see where
believe
you're
that.
going. I can see where you're going with that, but I do believe that social media was created to cause what it has caused.
Doesn't
I
mean there's
agree with
still a
her.
100%.
first world problem.
Right.
It is a first world problem.
Well, that's kind of what we were getting at, right? It is kind of the topic. Um, and it really is, because if you go over to Clapper, right, which has stretched out to second world nations, um, there are no third world nations on social media, right? So
If
social
they
me-
don't have,
there aren't. There are
if they
no
don't
third
have a
world
control,
countries on social media.
if our own government doesn't have control over it, how are they censoring us?
It's
Well,
second
see,
world countries.
that's a different argument and a different path. I think, Heather. It, I mean, once something's created of any influential power, the government's always going to stick its hand in directly or indirectly, no matter what. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, but I think the question is where's the line drawn, and is there anything that can be done about it? Right? I mean, we've talked about everything from
I
veterans being healthy to unhealthy. We've talked about, first world issues versus third world issues, and I think we sounds like we pretty much are all on the same sheet of music that for the most part, the first world dynamics are a little bit more unhealthy than people have had to understand the realities and the harshness of what life really is. But is there anything that can really be done about it?
Uh yes, but what can be done about it is too strenuous for population, that the first world population, um to actually do something, because see that because of our first world um infrastructure, we are comfortable in complaining that I don't have fucking fast internet, and having to get up and go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. The things that need to be done to make sure the government doesn't do things about propaganda, influencing, all of this stuff. Um, it kind of won't be done because the process takes longer than a 72 hour weekend. So, and it's not just a revolution, right? Let's be clear. I'm like, that is a solution, but it's not the right solution. And the other one is changing laws. And right there is a process for us to be able to change and amend the Constitution. The ratification process is one that the government does to confirm that whatever they're trying to put in, the rest of the country wants.
well,
The Convention of States, which is the opposite way, is the people or the
I
states coming together and saying, federal government, you're going to.
I see I see the large picture you're shooting for, but I think in order to make an actual change at this, it's got to start on a much smaller scale. I think it's got to start in the home. And it's got to start by not handing our children everything and letting them do without. Am I saying let them go without food? No. We're going to feed them, right? But just because they want Oreos doesn't mean we're going to give them the amenity at Oreos. They need 3 square meals a day, and that's what they're getting. They don't need a device in their hand all the time. They they
I
don't.
love my
Let's
wife.
not give them let's not give them a device all the time. You know, I remember being a kid, and some of you may have went through this. This is a gripe I have in my own home, and I've kind of put my foot down about it. I remember you had a time limit in the shower because you were using electricity not only to for that hot water, but also to freaking get that well going, and you're running water, and you had a time limit. And if you
Yes,
think for
everybody,
1 minute
we're
your
on a
time
whale. We're country.
you went on you went over your time limit, they'd shut the water off. They didn't care. So it starts in order to change America, the United States, it has to start in the home.
Well, and
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I
Exactly what I was
agree
going to
with
say.
that. That is another way. But to understand the third world problems and to see that the things that we're fucking that are amenities to us, the only way for that to happen is for a collapse. Um, and
No, I don't think so. I don't think so
you
because
don't
I
think
mean, if
so?
you look
Otherwise,
at
you're talking about multiple generations. We already send our kids to school, and our kids are
no,
using fucking technology to learn. They're
so
being
we're not going to be able to slow things down. We're not.
absolutely not. You
But if
can
you but look at other countries like you have mandatory military service, right?
okay,
That get them out of that first world comfort zone. I mean, is the Israelis have to go through mandatory military service. Their PTSD rate is like 1%
yeah,
versus
male
the
and
US,
female.
which is 20%. I mean, this reminds me of the Agage or Agorge or whatever the hell it's called from Sparta, where when the kids were like 7, 8 years old, they throw them out into to basically go get traumatized in the real world and go get trained. And they were some of the most elite individuals and resilient individuals in the world. So it might not be about, upending everything, but maybe something as simple as some sort of mandatory federal service.
We don't
Well,
want that. We don't want anything like that. A voluntary army is a much more stronger mentally and more motivated army than it would be to have anybody
Uh, I'm not saying there's
pressed
not
into service.
I'm not saying there's not pros and cons to all things. I'm just giving that as an example. I mean,
yeah,
Well,
and
You
maybe
use
it's
the
maybe
Israelis.
it's
Let's go
just
to the Greeks. The Greeks do the same thing with pressed in service. Like they have to do 2 years of military service between the time of 18 years old and 30. Anytime they can do it, they have to do it. And they're not happy about it. And it weakens their military because of that. It takes away funds, money, but they do have a readily available body of people they can throw at a problem if it ever arises. And I think that's where
I
that thinking comes from.
I think it starts by the people learning that they don't have to be served, but yet they can be a servant. Quit making it to where we serve everybody. Have
well,
have them go serve others.
if
yeah,
I'm not
they
mistaken,
And I
that's what
take that.
Germany does. That's what, if I'm not mistaken, that's what Germany does too. You have to do some sort of, and I'm going to say federal services. I don't know the element where you have a choice though. You join the military, go be a teacher, do some sort of medical element, or go get a trade education or something along those lines. But it's kind of what you're talking about, going and being that servant
civil servant.
mentality.
Well,
Yeah, maybe yes.
so a couple different things, right? So China has a very strong force, right? They have a lot of people. But it's a communist country and they're forced into it. So if we were to go to battle with fucking China, you know how many Chinese would like fucking wave the flag? They'd be like, "I'm done. I don't support this country. I was forced here."
I
Um,
saw that in Iraq.
right,
Yeah,
right. So I
surrendering
mean,
left and right.
right. So being forced into something you don't agree with actually does make a very weak force. But if we
Now,
went back to, right, the servant mentality, well, I remember a president saying this. I don't remember which one. Y'all can tell me which one. It's not what your country can do for you, but it's what you
Kennedy.
can do for your
Abraham
country.
Lincoln.
So, right, it's and this is a mentality that we need to get back to. It's not what my country can do for me, but it's what can I do for my country. And right now, everybody, the society is very much what can the country do for me?
Well, we also don't
Kennedy,
have
I was
people
right.
we also don't have people that are proud to be Americans anymore.
That's
It's
right.
not an honor to be an American. It's well, I live here, you're right, I'm an American. No. What happened I remember when if Old Glory was flying, everybody was at a point of attention. We don't do that anymore
Yeah,
Why?
national pride's a big thing. And
Yeah. Why is it so low, guys?
because we've allowed it to
politics.
happen. That's why.
In media, in music. When's the last time you heard a rap song come out about how great America was?
3 days
But
ago.
that goes back to that social media influence, right? We pulled a lot of schools pulled the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools because it was hurting people's feelings, right? And that's where it all starts. And yeah, it's
Actually,
indoctrinating kids, but
yeah,
that's kind of
the
where national
pledge
pride started.
So
the
hang on a
pledge
second,
actually
guys.
came out.
Hang on. Hold the pledge thought. Everybody, thank you for being here. If you want to see the rest of this, we're going to go ahead and push it over to locals. Get in there and see the rest of this. Going to have a 15-second mediation here. You guys can move over. Thank you and have a wonderful day.